some commotion today. Right over there, seems like there's some logging activity. Some foresters are cutting down trees. Yeah. And it was raining pretty much, seemed like a whole night it was raining. So again, a lot of precipitation. This winter is very there's a lot of precipitation. It's very wet, which is amazing, by the way. I mean, the fact that it's warm, that's not ideal, because again, today's extremely warm. I saw more and more earthworms crawling out of the ground and onto the asphalt, and it's just spring warm, really. I don't know, maybe it's going to be 13, maybe 14 today. So it's extremely warm, and yeah, I mean, yeah, but apart from that, sorry, I was a little bit distracted. I was checking if Drake is not eating anything on the gamekeeper's feeder. Good boy. It's exceptionally warm, but the good thing is that it's very wet. There's a lot of precipitation, which is healthy for the soil. It's healthy for everyone, really. Because last year it was extremely dry throughout the winter, and then it was very dry throughout the spring and throughout the summer, and just very dry overall throughout the whole year. And it was like one of the after a period of quite, I would say, healthy precipitation in the previous years, you know, and a lot of fungi and mushrooms, you know. I was like, the year before that, 2020, was like, I mean, I was like an Alice in Wonderland in terms of mushrooms, you know. I was like finding so many mushrooms, you know, and foraging so much, and coming across species of mushrooms that I haven't seen for so long, and I was so happy, you know, because it was incredible, and they were everywhere, you know, literally everywhere. And that was one of the most amazing years for mushrooms I can remember. And it was because there was quite a lot of precipitation throughout the winter, and also throughout the year, in the spring and summer and so on and so forth. So thanks to that, there were a lot of mushrooms. And then 2023 came, and it was extremely dry, and I swear I haven't found, I probably found like one parasol mushroom or two, you know. There was nothing. It was dry. It was crispy dry, really, you know, and there were absolutely no mushrooms, at least in this region, you know. I know some people found some mushrooms in the foothills of the mountains by the border and so on and so forth. I believe, yeah, I mean, there's a different environment there, you know. It's the mountains and so on. So yeah, there's some precipitation there. But here it was dry as hell, you know, no mushrooms whatsoever. And it was, yeah, you could feel it in the air. You could see it in the landscape, you know, how much the water was missing, you know. But this winter is very wet. There's a lot of rainfall. There's a lot of precipitation. There's a lot of moisture in the air, in the soil, you know. And that's awesome, you know. I'm very happy for that, and really glad. Yeah, that's amazing. It's just very warm, you know. So all this rain normally would be snow, but you know, the moisture is amazing. That is a great news. And I think it means, unless something's going to change in spring or summer, I think that means we're going to have another you know, another very bountiful season, you know. I think in terms of fruit as well, but in terms of mushrooms and everything else, you know, and berries, and yeah. So yeah, let's hope for that. But it's crazy warm, really, still crazy warm. Yeah. But a really cool thing happened before I actually turned on the video, and I was like, damn, I wish I captured that on camera, you know, the sound of it at least. And I think I could point the camera up on the sky. But I saw, by the way, there's another, I'm gonna diverge now. I will digress. Another classic cliffhanger moment. Amazing thing happened, you know, guys, you cannot believe what I saw when I turn on the camera. But hold on for a moment, I'm gonna show you something. It's a classic me. But let's go over here because there's a yellowhammer singing. Let's just listen to the song, because that is singing beautifully now. That. Hold on, Drake. That. Yep. Well, now he stopped in the middle, but he stopped in the middle again. Dude, come on, don't leave us hanging. What? Like, he's stopping in the middle. Now, that was... Yeah, I mean, you've heard it a couple times early on. So that was a yellowhammer. And there is a interesting voice right next to him. An interesting call. It's like a mixture of that one. It's like very high pitch whistles. Sometimes it goes very high up and then, you know, it's kind of like a, yeah, that right there. And sometimes there's a lot of like, it sounds like as if it's like more birds at once, you know, but it's like one bird only. Now, you hear that? That little, yeah. It sounds like it's talking almost, you know, like there's like a little bit of, I think he's imitating now as well, actually. Yeah, but that is a starling. And I think it's the first one I've heard this year, actually. So, yeah, now he did again the high pitch whistle. That's a sort of a way to distinguish. And again, yeah. Not sure if he's gonna do it again, but yeah. Wow, he's imitating. I've definitely heard, I think before I've heard a bullfinch, then I've heard a little hint of buzzard, and now he actually did a good boy, of course, good boy. And now he did now he did that species that is, damn, what is the name of it? It's like a beautifully brightly colored yellow and black bird, quite big, looks like an African species. And I really don't, I remember the Czech name, but I really do not remember the English and Latin name. So I'm gonna, you know, put it in the subtitles. But it's not a very common bird here, you know. Therefore, I really never learned the English name, and nor did I learn the Latin really well. So I'm gonna put it in there. But yeah, the starling actually imitated the. Sorry, I don't even know if I said it was starling. I always get like wrapped up in listening to the song. So I want you to hear the song really well, and then I'm gonna like, yeah, so that was a starling, you know. But like that's the kind of a paradox, is when you stop and listen, the birds usually either stop singing or they start to do something else, you know, because of course I probably see you, you know, and they, once you, like, you walk and you all of a sudden you turn their direction and stop, they get suspicious, you know. So sometimes it's better to not stop walking, maybe just slow down and listen. But you know, of course, it's kind of hard to focus when you do that, and sometimes you get a little bit too away, and sometimes you want to be quiet and hear it, you know, so you stop. Well, you gotta risk it, you know. But yeah, that was a starling, and I think the first one I've heard this year. Not I think, I definitely, I'm sure, the first one I've heard this year. So they fly back in from the wintering grounds, from the wintering areas. From the south, they return usually around February, so quite early on. And actually, I'm surprised to see them just now. You know, I would expect with those warm temperatures to come back even sooner. So that was a starling, and there's going to be a whole lot of them in about a month's time. And I was talking about starling in one of the videos about mimic call, and now that starling gave us a beautiful examples of it. And starling is incredible mimic. It can mimic, it can even talk, it can mimic human language, it can mimic laughter, it can mimic all sorts of various different things. And right there, he was mimicking a lot of different calls. Some I don't even recognize, so probably maybe could have been some North African species, like, I don't know, you know, who knows where that starling wintered, you know. Yeah, definitely 3 species I recognized was, I think one was bullfinch, another was buzzard, and the third one was that bird that I cannot remember what was the name of it. And as much as I dig in my memory, I just, no, I can't. I would say yellow, beautiful yellow bird. And it's got a very sort of flute-like song, you know. But I'm going to post in the subtitles. So that was a starling, and that was a yellowhammer. You've heard very nicely the call, the song in the first few moments before it started to, you know, I don't know what was that about. It stopped. It always stopped in the middle afterwards, you know. Yeah, I guess maybe performance anxiety, you know, once we became his audience or something like that. But I was talking about that interesting thing that happened, and then I diverged, you know, as usually I digressed. So yeah, call me Mr. Cliffhanger, as I mentioned in the subtitles in the last video. Guys, you cannot believe this is life-changing. The thing that I always wonder what was about, like, oh man, I finally figured out what it was. But before I tell you, let me do something else and leave you hanging for 5 minutes. Yeah, no, I'm not gonna do that again, sorry. I mean, I probably will, sorry, but not now. So the fascinating thing that happened was that there were 2 mute swans flying over right above my head, like not just like closely to my head, but like, you know, up in the sky right across where we were walking. And they're huge birds, you know, huge birds. Like incredible when you see them. Like usually you see them up on the like in a pond, or you know, you see them swimming, you know, you see them in the water or on the ground. But when you see them up in the air, it's an incredible sight, you know. It's like 2 airplanes, you know, flying. And they have an incredibly loud flight, you know. They're mute swans for a reason. They don't really make many sounds. They like hiss, you know, when they're angry, but they don't have any like specific really calls or songs or anything, you know. So that's that. But when they fly, man, they produce this, like, because they're so heavy and their wingspan is so huge, and the area and the area of their wings is so big, and the individual feathers are so huge that when they hit the air, it produces this. I can't even imitate it, you know. I can't even like sort of try and produce the sound, but it makes this like whooshing sound that is like one of a like you're not gonna hear anything like that, you know, because large, for instance, birds of prey, they're you know, they couldn't hunt with that, you know. If they would be heard from fucking 2 kilometers away, they would starve to death because all of their prey would just run away. It's like, you know, like imagine being a little bird and and then you hear like a 2 minutes before the bird of prey actually approaches you, you know. So like you'll be totally gone, right? So that wouldn't work for birds of prey, but it doesn't matter for swans, you know, because they don't care. They're just huge, and they really, as far as I know, they don't really have a predator, so to speak, you know, apart from, you know, humans actually. But I mean, swans are not being hunted, you know, but they're huge, you know. They're just huge, so they don't really need a quiet flight, and it sounds really incredible. It's a loud sound that they produce when they fly. And I actually heard them. They were probably well over 500 meters away, and I could still hear them, you know. They were like becoming smaller and smaller in the distance, but I could still hear the sound. That's how loud it was, which made me realize that yesterday the formation we saw, those were definitely not swans, you know. Not only there was sorry, let me just go through that path here and then return back, because I got a couple more words to say, so I wouldn't be able to finish it in time. So those were definitely not swans, because we would hear them. There were like 4 of them, I think, or definitely at least 3. This was just 2 swans, and it was loud as hell. So we would hear it even from afar. And the swans are humongous birds, you know. You don't even realize it until you see them up in the air, how big they are. So what we saw yesterday, and funnily enough, I saw them today as well. Right before the swans, they appeared, and they were like, again, the same number, the same formation, and flying in a different direction. I think it might have been even the same birds, you know, because really it was the same formation and same amount of birds. And I was like, so probably that wasn't swans, right? Like looking at them again, they seem kind of smaller. And then before you couldn't make this up. Like before I was like, that probably weren't swans. And then right at that moment, I've heard the swans flying over my head, you know, up in the air. I was like, wow, that is incredible. So what I was gonna say, you know, just to sort of correct myself from the previous video, that probably were not swans. They were most likely, I think, a geese, you know, because they were too big for ducks, you know. That would be like a tiny little dots on the horizon. So they were definitely larger birds, and today I appreciated that today as well. Oh, look at that! Looks like there was some sort of a fight here, and that is interesting. That looks like oh, hold on, I was gonna say that looks like, nope. And you know what it is? And this is a brilliant example right here. I'm glad we walked through here. This kind of reminded me of blackbird feathers, you know, the tail feathers, sort of, because they're very pitch black and they're, you know, kind of small, but they don't have the shape of a tail feathers, you know. They're clearly from a wing. But like for a moment I was like, isn't that a blackbird? And then I saw these other feathers here. Let me show you this particular feather I saw, you know. And I don't know if you can see the detail of it, but not only there's a white here, which is definitely not, you know, like blackbird doesn't have any white in there unless he or she or it is leucistic. But there's no white in blackbird's feathers. And what's more, there's a little bit faded pattern here with a faded hints of blue, you know. Not sure if you can see it in, I wish I could put it like more closely or something so you would see it, but I don't think you can really see it. Maybe you do, but there's a little hint of blue, and that tells me that was a jay. And it's more, and it is confirmed with, let me show you right here. It's confirmed with this one. See that? That was like not far away from there. So that's definitely a jay. That's a jay, and looks like didn't have to be killed, you know, because there's not that many feathers up here. There's more right here. Look at that. Yeah, it's very beautiful, bright blue. See that? Beautiful bright blue feathers. Yeah. So that was a jay, and looks like definitely a site of a fight. You know, this. You know, when you find the one feather on the ground or two feathers or something. Do you have something, Drake? Oh. Okay, there are more feathers up here. Oh, wow. Okay. There is a piece of... Oh, shoot. Wow. Okay. Okay, I was going to say it doesn't seem like it was killed. It doesn't have to be, but there is actually... I don't know if you can see that, but there's actually a piece of beak, the upper mandible of the beak torn out. Wow, that's brutal. That is brutal. Okay, so it was definitely killed. Yeah, and it looks pretty fresh, to be honest. I thought it's kind of old, but it's definitely not. So it was killed. So it was a fight, which I definitely saw right away. And I was gonna say, Reiko, bite them. I was gonna say, if you find a feather on the ground, you know, like a one feather or something, and especially when it's in the autumn, you know, or you know, before, like when it's in the time when birds molt, you know, so like after the breeding season, or you know, in the autumn or something like that, then you know, if you like, you're gonna find a lot of feathers. But if it's like individual feathers, like, you know, 1, 2, 3, you know, scattered, then it is most likely just molting. You know, it's like birds are losing feathers all the time. They change them in specific ways, and one after another, and they change them to, you know, well, to simply take out the worn out feathers and exchange them and change them for new ones, you know, that serve better function in flight, you know, and ice, like insulation and all that, you know. So those are usually feathers that were molted. But when you find a larger accumulation of feathers like that, that mostly mean there was a fight, you know, and that mostly mean that something happened, you know, to that bird. And let's go, you know what, let's take a little bit of a back path here, you know, because we're going to talk more about those feathers. So there was a fight, but it doesn't have to mean that the bird died. If there's like a large accumulation of feathers, then definitely you can be sure that, hold on, there was a dropping here, an interesting one too. See that right here? That's actually, is it a dropping? Because it looks like a, yeah, it is, yeah, it is a dropping. And it's not a pellet, which would be produced by an owl. It's definitely dropping, but it's mostly just hair, you know? But in any case, that's definitely, actually, you know what it could be? Because there's literally almost no remnants of like a poop matter, should I say, you know? It was really mostly just hair. So either either it's quite an old dropping, and so like with rain it was all washed away, the sort of the poop matter, so to speak, or it was something that like a predator, you know, when they eat something that has a lot of fur. You know, cats do it all the time, you know, like they regurgitate some of the fur. So maybe it was that. But definitely from a predator, and most likely, or quite likely, usually from a fox, you know, or similar predator that eats, you know, that eats other animals and, you know, furry animals. So there's a fur in there. There is a fur in their droppings, you know. Then that way you can tell, oh yeah, that was a predator. That wasn't a, I don't know, a boar or a deer, you know. That was a predator, and it was pretty large too. So for like a marten or some smaller predator, it was definitely a larger animal. Anyway, I was talking about the feathers, and so it doesn't always have to mean that the bird died. It can sometimes mean that it was caught. It loses some of the feathers to protect itself from that predator, like blackbirds do that. They lose the feathers intentionally. So there's like a cloud of feathers when they are caught by that predator. There's a cloud of feathers, and that is their strategy, and then they can escape. That is their defense strategy, sort of, that they lose a lot of feathers. See here, for instance, again, this was a fight. This is not just moulting. There's something definitely caught a bird here, and there are no other signs of, like, you know, like there's no blood, there's no remnants of like meat or anything, you know, or anything else. So that bird could have survived. And it looks like this might be, these feathers might be from a Turdus viscivorus, from a missel thrush, you know. They're kind of small, you know, but definitely of a larger songbird, you know. So like my guess would be here a thrush species, you know, and you know, since there are a lot of missel thrushes here and no song thrushes yet in sight because they didn't arrive yet, then that could very well be a missel thrush. So that was a fight too, you know. But this one could have, you know, gotten away. They lose a lot of those feathers, and mostly like blackbirds and Turdus species, you know. But blackbirds here do that a lot, you know. So they lose a lot of those feathers, and then they fly away, you know, and then those feathers grow up back again. But if it's a larger accumulation of feathers, like really a heap of feathers, that means there was a goshawk, for instance, you know, or other bird of prey that just like plucked the bird, you know, or prepared it so that you know, it can eat it easily. So it plucked the bird, left the feathers there, and carried it somewhere else. But that usually means that there is all feathers there, you know. There is the down feather, there is the like flight feathers, there is the wing feathers, the tail feathers. All of them are there because it's like as if someone plucked a bird. That means, yep, it was caught and it was plucked by the predator, and you know, it was taken away. But if it's just a couple of feathers, it's definitely not molting, but it could mean, you know, that bird just, you know, either escaped, or maybe it was just grabbed and carried somewhere else, and those feathers just, you know, were scattered away in the process. So, you know, but it can mean good news, just what I'm saying, you know, theoretically. But that right there, that was not good news. And what it tells me is, because jay is a quite large bird, what it tells me is that that was a work of a goshawk, you know, because jays are very much, now what is that word? I'm definitely going to put in the subtitles, but a large portion, let's say, of the diet of goshawks is jays, you know, like they hunt them. And I cannot imagine any other bird here, any other birds of prey that would do that, apart perhaps from from an owl, but that would have to be an eagle owl, for instance, you know, which I'm not saying is not, and it's not uncommon here. There are definitely eagle owls here, and I've heard it a couple of times, but this was most likely, in my opinion, a work of a goshawk. So yeah, we saw a literal crime scene in there. I mean, it's not a crime, obviously, you know, like goshawk needs to eat too. So yeah, we saw the scene of a successful hunt, and an upper mandible and lots of feathers from Jay. So that was pretty cool. And I, you know, took all sorts of different paths so we don't have to end early and I can finish what I was gonna say. But like, yeah, let's wrap this up for today. That was a very eventful morning again, and we saw a lot of things. That was cool. And I'm not sure if I finished what I was saying with, oh yeah, with the swans. So yeah, I just wanted to correct myself from last time that those were not swans, but most likely geese. Because swans, I've recalled today when I saw them how incredibly loud they are. It's really like, but there's this like, it's more, it's not just this whooshing sound. There's this like, I can't really produce it. It's so strange and one of a kind sort of sound that you don't hear anywhere else. You know, it's really incredible. You know, once you like, yeah, like I wish you come across this situation when there's gonna be swans flying ahead on the sky, because it's really a sight to behold. Really, it was amazing. So yeah, that was today. That was today's walk, and I'm gonna sign off now. Oh, before I do that, actually, see this here? I corrected myself in the last video. So these are actually algae, you know, that produce this beautifully vibrant orange color on the tree bark. They also grow on rocks, as well as on lichen, where it creates a symbiotic relationship. So it grows on lichen, and provided its bright color, you know. And when you touch lichen, sometimes you get this like dusty sort of color on your fingers. That's the algae, you know. And right here, look at this. I always admire how beautifully bright the colors are here, you know. This is incredible. It's as if it's painted, right? It's incredible, really. So that is the algae that I mentioned in the last video. I actually thought, you know, I thought I remember that it was, I thought it was mushrooms, or it was a species of fungi. I actually learned already once that it's algae, but I forgot, you know. I don't remember everything. Yeah. So it's an algae, and it's beautiful. It's really something. A work of art, I would say. So yeah, I just wanted to make that little note. And with that, I'm gonna sign off. All right.